Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
A two-piece special with lots of hot sauce and all the fries you can give me.
Boy, wake up. It's almost chicken time. What? I can't believe what you telling me. What? No way. No goddamn way. Hell no. What is it? These motherfuckers talking about they out of chicken. What? Listen.
Welcome to Colonel's Fried Chicken. Unfortunately, we are out of chicken at the moment. Please go away until we have more chicken. Thank you. God bless.
They ran out of chicken?
Oh man, this is some old bullshit.
No chicken? You mean I ain't gonna be able to get that bucket?
How can they be out of chicken? It's Colonel's Fried Chicken!
This is outrageous. This is an outrage.
Hello, 911? No, I ain't calling a snitch. I got a real emergency. Yeah, I hope.
Some of us have been looking forward to this day for a long, long time.
Hello, my emergency? These fools done ran out of chicken.
Welcome to Colonel's Fried Chicken. Unfortunately,
I ain't sleeping this motherfucker until I get my chicken. I ain't got shit to do. I ain't got no job. You better get my chicken.
That's what they do. Keep screwing the little man. They're not going to get away with this.
You're right. Hey, he's right. It's time for us to fight back. Let's knock some motherfuckers out about this chicken.
We are not going to take it anymore.
Damn, I'm chicken. That's so cool.
When the American frontier was a land of opportunity for some and exclusion for many.
Fair use. Now you know they finna put all type of silliness on this, like the terms African American and all that. But I'm gonna smack that down real quick. But there's still some very important and useful things in this presentation. So you know, y'all already know how I feel about African Americans. Prove it. But since you can't, we gonna just ignore it when he say that. Let's keep it going.
Ingenuity and generosity. In a time when the American frontier was a land of opportunity for some and exclusion for many, there emerged a man whose vision, ingenuity, and generosity would leave an indelible mark on history. William Alexander Leidesdorff, a biracial entrepreneur of African and Danish descent, defied societal norms to become one of the most influential figures in early California. From his pioneering efforts in commerce and politics, to his enduring contributions to community development, Leidesdorff's story is a testament to the boundless potential of courage and determination. Before we go deeper into the extraordinary life of this trailblazing businessman and philanthropist, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to my channel for more inspiring stories of individuals who shaped history against all odds. Born in 1810 on the island of St. Croix in the Danish West Indies, William Alexander Leidesdorff entered a world marked by rigid hierarchies and racial inequality. The son of a Danish father and a mother of African heritage, William's mixed ancestry would shape his life in profound ways. Despite the limitations imposed by his background, he demonstrated remarkable ambition from an early age, envisioning a future where he could transcend the barriers of race and status. In the 1830s, William left St. Croix for the United States, settling in New Orleans. There, he entered the world of maritime trade, captaining ships that transported goods across the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. His experience as a sailor honed his skills in navigation, negotiation, and commerce, skills that would serve him well in the years to come. He navigated treacherous waters, not just literally, but figuratively, dealing with complex trade routes, fluctuating markets, and the challenges posed by competing powers in the region. Yet, despite his growing success, the entrenched racial prejudices of the South limited his opportunities. Determined to forge his own path, Leidesdorff set his sights on the burgeoning frontier of California. In 1841, Leidesdorff arrived in Mexican-controlled California, a land that was on the cusp of...
See how light-skinned that man is? This is crazy. We gonna let it go though. They said he was African-American and put this... Keep going.
Transformation. He quickly recognized
Fair
the
use.
potential of the region and established himself in the sleepy pueblo of Yerba Buena, now known as San Francisco. With a keen eye for opportunity, Leidesdorff launched a series of ventures that would lay the groundwork for the city's future prosperity. He explored innovative approaches to commerce, often acting as a bridge between the various cultural groups in the area, which included indigenous peoples, Mexican settlers, and an emerging American presence. One of Leidesdorff's most notable achievements was the construction of the first commercial shipping wharf in San Francisco Bay. At a time when the region's economy relied heavily on maritime trade.
That's right. Our brother developed the first commercial shipping in California. You know, shout to Chaotic Truth Show. You know, they like to say, oh, a white man came up with all this commerce. All right, then. Whatever.
The wharf revolutionized the way goods were imported. The various cultural groups in the area, which included indigenous peoples, Mexican settlers, and an emerging American presence. One of Leidesdorff's most notable achievements was the construction of the first commercial shipping wharf in San Francisco Bay. At a time when the region's economy relied heavily on maritime trade, the wharf revolutionized the way goods were imported and exported, solidifying San Francisco's position as a key port on the Pacific coast. This infrastructure not only facilitated commerce, but also attracted settlers, merchants, and entrepreneurs to the area, sparking the city's rapid growth. Leidesdorff's innovation wasn't merely about building structures. It was about envisioning a system that could support the bustling trade and migration that he anticipated would define California's future.
Fair use.
Entrepreneurial spirit was boundless. He established California's first steam-powered vessel, the Sitka.
He established California's first steam-powered vessel. Keep going. He made the first commerce centers and established the first steam vessels for trade. Dang.
Define California's future. Leidesdorff's entrepreneurial spirit was boundless. He established California's first steam-powered vessel, the Sitka, which connected San Francisco to other coastal communities and boosted regional trade. This vessel represented a leap forward in transportation, enabling faster and more reliable movement of goods and people. He also opened one of the first hotels in San Francisco, providing much-needed accommodations for travelers and business people.
He opened the first hotels. Oh, man. This dude, this Negro? Oh, let's keep going.
Ventures became gathering points, fostering a sense of community in the growing settlement. His efforts in agriculture were equally pioneering. He managed a sprawling 35,000-acre ranch in the Sacramento Valley, where he raised livestock and cultivated crops, contributing to California's agricultural development. The ranch was not just a commercial enterprise, but a testament to his vision of sustainability and self-reliance, creating jobs and resources for the community. While his business accomplishments were extraordinary, Leidesdorff's impact extended far beyond commerce. As a naturalized Mexican citizen, he became deeply involved in the region's political and social life. In 1844,
that don't look like no
U.S. vice consul to Mexico at Yerba
Yo, they could be killing me with these
making him
pictures.
one of the first African Americans to hold a diplomatic post in the United States. In this role, he facilitated communication and trade between the two nations, earning the respect of both American and Mexican officials. His ability to navigate these dual identities exemplified his diplomatic skill, allowing him to act as a mediator during a period of intense geopolitical change. Leidesdorff's political influence grew as California transitioned from Mexican to American control following the Mexican-American War. In 1848, he became a member of San Francisco's town council, helping to shape the governance of the rapidly expanding community. He was also a vocal advocate for public education, recognizing the importance of schooling and building a prosperous and equitable society. Through his efforts, San Francisco established its first public school, laying the foundation for the city's educational system. His contributions
I'm sorry, excuse me, say that again?
He was also a vocal advocate for public education, recognizing the importance of schooling and building a prosperous and equitable society. Through his efforts, San Francisco established its first public school, laying the foundation for the city's educational system. His contributions to education were forward-thinking, aiming to ensure that future generations had the tools to succeed and contribute to society. Despite his many achievements, Leidesdorff's life was not without challenges. As a biracial man in a racially divided society, he faced prejudice and discrimination, even
that
in
right?
California's relatively diverse population.
Prove it.
Yet he refused to let these obstacles deter him,
What was
using
this?
his wealth
What was
and
that?
influence to uplift others and create opportunities for marginalized communities.
Mm.
His perseverance was not just a personal triumph, but an example for others navigating similar struggles. Leidesdorff sought to empower those around him, offering mentorship and resources to those willing to work hard and dream big. Leidesdorff's generosity was legendary. He donated land, money, and resources to support local institutions, including churches, schools, and charitable organizations. His philanthropy earned him the admiration of his peers and cemented his legacy as a community leader. He believed that true success lay not in personal gain, but in contributing to the greater good, a principle that guided his every endeavor. His actions underscored a belief in collective progress, where individual achievement served as a foundation for broader societal growth. Tragically, Leidesdorff's life was cut short in 1848 when he died of typhoid fever at the age of 38.
Allegedly.
His passing was a profound loss for San Francisco and the wider California community. At the time,
Might have also died because they found gold on his land. They found a huge amount of gold on his land, which ended up valuing his home at millions of dollars, even back then in the 1800s. So, who knows why he actually kicked the bucket, but we'll keep going.
of his death, his estate was valued at over $1.4 million, an extraordinary sum that reflected his business acumen and visionary investments. Yet his greatest legacy,
And the fact that they found gold on his land. That's what pushed the value up. But let's keep going.
was not his wealth, but the enduring impact of his contributions to the city he helped build. His contemporaries mourned his loss deeply, with many recognizing that his vision had helped shape the city's trajectory for decades to come. Today, William Alexander Leidesdorff is remembered as one of the founding fathers of San Francisco and a pioneer of multicultural leadership in America. His name graces streets, schools, and landmarks, a testament to his enduring influence. More importantly, his story serves as an inspiration to those who dare to dream beyond the constraints of their circumstances. His life also prompts reflection on the untold stories of many who shaped America's foundations, encouraging us to seek a fuller understanding of history. Leidesdorff's life reminds us that greatness is not defined by where we begin, but by the impact we leave behind. Through his vision, determination, and unwavering commitment to his community, he proved that the barriers of race and prejudice could be overcome, paving the way for future generations to thrive.
Shout to investors for that really dope article, presentation rather. But yeah, man, we got to get some more historically accurate representations of the brother. So right there is how he actually looked. You know what I mean? Like, we got to get some more accurate representations of this brother going on. Let's do that. Let's do that. All right. Let's see, where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Okay. I got you. Read a quick Killerpedia excerpt. Shout to Killerpedia. William Alexander Leidesdorff. This is a painting they made of him in the 1845. Whatever. It's an artist rendition from St. Croix in the Danish West Indies. Passed away at 38 in Cali. Burial place with the Mission San Francisco de Asís. Title was the American Vice Consul for the Port of San Francisco. He was a port Jew, huh? Father William Alexander Leidesdorff, or John Alexander Leidesdorff, and Anna Marie Sparks. This is his mother, who they try to say is African. I never seen no African woman with the last name Sparks, but you know, they can't tell you what tribe she's from. They can't tell you what country she would have been in of today, but they just want you to think that she's African. All right. For no other reason than they're there. They are so-called white, and they say so. William Alexander Leidesdorff Jr. was an Afro-Caribbean, allegedly, settler in California, one of the founders of the city that became San Francisco. One of the founders of the city that became San Francisco, a highly successful and enterprising businessman. He is thought to have been the first black millionaire in the United States. You mean it wasn't Madam C.J. Walker? You mean it wasn't Madam C.J. Walker? What? What do you mean? I thought it was Madam C.J. Walker selling hair products. And even then, she stole that from Annie McRae. But anyway, let's keep going. Leidesdorff was a West Indian immigrant of alleged Afro-Cuban, possibly Carib, the indigenous Carib Indians that lived in the islands from time immemorial, the indigenous Arab Caribbeans who were seafarers. You mean he was one of them? He was a Carib. He was Danish, Swedish, and Jewish ancestry. Oh, ghetto. Y'all be always trying to say these black people. Yes, because he was Sephardim. He was Sephardim, Carib. Like those are the things that can be proven. Danish, Swedish. I know y'all try to act like the Moors didn't escape into Germany, but they did. And his father is of the ancestry of the Moors who escaped into Germany after the Inquisition. Leidesdorff became a United States citizen in New Orleans in 1834. Before that, he was a citizen of Mexico. He migrated to Alta California in 1841, then under Mexican rule, settling in Yerba Buena, now San Francisco. Excuse me. Sorry about that. A village of about 30 Mexican and European families. He became a Mexican citizen in 1844 and received a land grant from the Mexican government of 8 Spanish leagues, or 35,500 acres. We out here fighting for 40 acres in the mule, and this man got 35,000 acres from the Mexican government south of the American River, known as Rancho Rio de los Americanos. He served as the U.S. Vice Consul. Yes, he was also an attorney. He was a farmer. He was an attorney. He was an educator. This dude, he was a businessman, an entrepreneur. This dude was that guy. You understand? Because this is what brothers can do when they are focused on their task. He served as the U.S. Vice Consul to Mexico at the Port of San Francisco beginning in 1845. Leidesdorff was president of the San Francisco School Board and also elected as city treasurer. Negroes, they ain't do nothing special, ghetto. Why you always saying this stuff? We was kings. Shortly before Leidesdorff's death, vast amounts of gold were officially reported on his Rancho Rio de los Americanos. By the time his estate was auctioned in 1856, it was worth more than $1.4 million, not including vast quantities of gold mined upon his land. Damn! How much was his property actually worth? Back in the 1800s, guys, $1 million property. This dude wasn't no bum. International Leidesdorff bicentennial celebrations began on October 22nd, 2011 in his native isle of St. Croix, Virgin Islands. Born in 1810 on the island of St. Croix in the Danish West Indies, because the Danish people owned it. It was the Dutch West India Company that was handling things back then. I know y'all don't want to deal with that. And the people who ran the Dutch West India Company and the Dutch East India Company looked like me. Had that brown skin. All of that brown skin. To William Leidesdorff Sr., a white. You know, this ain't no sources for that. White Danish merchant, and Anne-Marie Spark, a Creole woman. There's a source for her being Creole. There's no source for this dude being white. His parents were not legally married. As his parents were not legally married, Leidesdorff was considered illegitimate until July 18th, 1837, when a Crucian court formally recognized his birth, allowing him to inherit his father's property. Also, a source for that, a source for him being able to inherit his father's property, a source for his mom's being Creole, but ain't no source. His dad, yo, Wikipedia be telling on himself. Willem Leidesdorff Sr. was reportedly of Jewish descent. So his father was a Jew, and you are your father's seed. So he was Jewish. He was, which tribe? I'm not sure, but he definitely was from the remnant, man. This dude is the remnant. Jewish descent from the community of Altona, Hamburg, Germany, where so many Sephardims went. It was part of the Danish Schleswig-Holstein, then across the river from, but now part of today's port of Hamburg, Germany. He migrated to North America and later the Caribbean to further his career as a what? As a merchant. Oh, he was a merchant Maureen. He was a merchant Moor. He was a merchant Moor. He was a merchant Maureen. Oh, he was a merchant Marine. Okay. Leidesdorff Jr., his mother, Anna Marie Sparks, was described in one count as a Carib. She's a Carib. She's a Carib Indian woman. That's described. She was also to believed all these beliefs. Don't give me this belief to have African and European ancestry. Her race was noted in a census report. Many people observed that what were called Carib people had skin of various hues that likely reflected mixed ancestry, just ambiguous skin tones. So they'll just start guessing, ranging from dark brown to lighter shades of brown, resulting in a Virgin Islands Creole to which she may have belonged. Other sources said that his mother, Marie Ann Spark, as she was also known, Anne Marie Spark, or Marie Ann, was mixed race woman of African, no sources, and Spanish heritage, thought to have been born in Cuba. No sources, though. No sources. In census records, Marie Ann Spark, or Anne Marie Spark, was classified as a free Carib Indian. Boom! But few Caribs survived until the late 18th century. That doesn't mean she wasn't, according to Gary Palgon's biography of Leidesdorff. Other sources document tens of thousands of Caribs, mostly mixed heritage, living in windwards and Trinidad at the time of Leidesdorff's birth. So, together, the accounts describe Spark as a light-skinned woman of mixed race ancestry, yet classified as black by the 1850s California court system, where blacks were restricted from testifying in court. According to Sue Bailey Thurman, the name of William Alexander Leidesdorff, we begin the document with the name of William Alexander Leidesdorff. We begin the documentary history of pioneers of Negroes origin in California. As an infant, Leidesdorff was baptized as a Lutheran, a converso, hiding what they truly were, as were all of the Leidesdorff children, since it was the adopted faith of his father and many other people of Jewish ancestry assumed to avoid conflict. They were conversos. They were hiding. They were the Lutherans. They were the Wallads. They were the Jacobites. They were the Presbyterians. They were the Quakers. They were the Christians. They were the Catholics. They were hiding that they were Jews. In 1837, Leidesdorff Sr. adopted all four of his own children from Anne Marie Sparks to give them legal standing by Danish law. In 1834, Leidesdorff immigrated to New Orleans, where he became a naturalized American citizen and a ship captain. He held posts with firms associated with his father or perhaps his mentors. Ship manifest documents show Leidesdorff working as a ship captain and or master, 1834 to 1840, out of the port of New Orleans. Nolens. William Alexander Leidesdorff Jr. was thought the last black ship captain in Louisiana after strict enforcement of the Negro Seamen's Act began at the port of New Orleans. No citation, so y'all claim this happened, but y'all don't. You're not sure. All right, we'll dig into that. Leidesdorff traveled to New York to become the master of the schooner Julia Ann. that sailed from New York to Yerba Buena, later San Francisco and Alta California, then part of Mexico in 1841. His route was via Panama, St. Croix, Brazil, Chile, the Sandwich Islands, which was Hawaii, Sitka, which is Alaska, and on to California following the Pacific Ocean currents. I thought this man... Upon arriving at Yerba Buena, Leidesdorff began to rebuild his business. The village cove then only had 30 European Mexican families, so it did not take long for the ambitious man to make an impact. Quotes, he launched the first steamboat to operate in San Francisco Bay and the Sacramento River. It was 37 feet long and purchased in Alaska. He built the City Hotel, the first hotel in San Francisco, and the first commercial shipping warehouse, the latter on what became Leidesdorff Street and Embarcadero. In 1844, Leidesdorff obtained a vast land grant through favor from the Mexican government for 35,521 acres on the south bank of the American River near today's California city of Sacramento. He named the property Rancho Rio de los Americanos. During this period, Mexico encouraged leading Americans to settle in its territory by granting large land grants. So Mexico was just giving away land, like, come pull up, come work over here. In exchange, the government required Americans to convert to Catholicism, the state religion, learn to speak Spanish, and to accept Mexican citizenship. Pretty sure he already knew Spanish from his sephardic heritage, but we'll play that game. He went on to establish extensive commercial relations throughout Hawaii, Alaska, and Mexican California. This brother, that's who did it. This brother, during the 8 years of his residence, Leidesdorff served as one of the 6 aldermen or town councilors of the ayuntamiento after the United States took over California following the Mexican-American War. He was one of 3 members of the first San Francisco School Board, which organized the first public school in the city. Later, he was elected city treasurer. His house was one of the largest, and he donated land for the first public school. 1845, during President James Polk administration, Leidesdorff accepted the request from the United States Consul Thomas O. Larkin to serve as the U.S. Vice Consul to Mexico at the port of San Francisco, a measure of his political standing in the region. Larkin was the first and last U.S. Consul appointed to serve California. Before the American flag was raised over San Francisco, Leidesdorff had the U.S. Declaration of Independence read for the first time in California on the veranda at his home in celebration of Independence Day. So this dude was definitely what you'd call a proud American. Leidesdorff Jr. achieved a high reputation for integrity and enterprise. He is said to have been liberal, hospitable, cordial, confiding, even to a fault. So he was nice to his own detriment. Leidesdorff became one of the wealthiest men in California. Leidesdorff became one of the wealthiest men. It looked like it wanted to say he became the wealthiest man in California, and they were editing it and they didn't finish editing it right. All right, then. The value of his property near Sacramento began to rise dramatically just before his death, when gold was discovered along the American River just above his Leidesdorff ranch in the gold mining district of California. In 1848, March, the California Star reported the total non-native population of San Francisco was only 812, 575 males, 177 females, and 60 children. May 1848, the vast majority of men departed the American River goldfields, departed for the American River goldfields in hopes of striking it rich. Other towns were nearly emptied in the frenzy of the gold rush. Fair use, gang. Let's go.
Long ago, San Francisco was known as Yerba Buena, which means good herb in Spanish, after a mint that used to grow here. At that time, there were only 3 settlements in San Francisco. One was the Mission.
We know what good herb she's talking about. Stop it. It's that sweet sensimilia. I know we don't like to deal with how much hemp and cannabis used to be growing here in the Americas when they first colonized, but that's literally what people use to pay their bills to the king, because King James ordered that everyone grow hemp. But that's why it was literally on the money. But let's keep going.
Dolores. One was the Presidio, and one was Yerba Buena, which was the urban center. There were only about 800 people here in 1848. It was very small. A lot of very historic buildings were here, including Pony Express headquarters, the Wells Fargo, Hudson Bay Trading Company, and some very famous early settlers, one of whom, William Leidesdorff, who lived just blocks from here, very successful business person. He was of African-American descent and the first millionaire in California.
William Alexander Leidesdorff was one of the founders of San Francisco. He was here during the Gold Rush era. He came in the early 1840s from St. Croix through New Orleans. He spent some time establishing himself as a merchant seaman and a business person under his father and his brother in New Orleans. His real claim to fame, as we know him for San Francisco's history, establishing himself here in the early 1800s, approximately 1842. He did a number of things that were the first thing to do here in San Francisco. At the time, it was known as Yerba Buena. It wasn't a state yet, it wasn't California yet, and wasn't even fully San Francisco yet. Because he was an American citizen, but he spoke Spanish, he was able to, during the time when America was taking over California from Mexico, there was a series of annexations that happened, and there was conflict emerging, there was war, of course. He was part of the peace deliberations and the basically ambassadorship to create the state of California. And for that role, he was a vice consul, which was an ambassadorship to. He did a number of things that were the first thing to do here in San Francisco. At the time, it was known as Yerba Buena. It wasn't a state yet, it wasn't California yet, and wasn't even fully San Francisco yet. Because he was an American citizen, but he spoke Spanish, he was able to, during the time when America was taking over California from Mexico, there was a series of annexations that happened, and there was conflict emerging, there was war.
Fair use.
Part of the peace deliberations and the basically ambassadorship to create the state of California. And for that role, he was a vice consul, which was an ambassadorship to Mexico. Mexico also granted him citizenship. He loaned the provincial government of San Francisco money to fund some of the war effort of California. And for that role, he was California from Mexico. There was a series of annexations that happened, and there was conflict emerging, there was war, of course. He was part of the peace deliberations and the basically ambassadorship to create the state of California. And for that role, he was a vice consul, which was an ambassadorship to Mexico. Mexico also granted him citizenship. He loaned the provincial government of San Francisco money to fund some of the war efforts to establish the city itself and the state, of course. He established the first hotel here. He was the person people turned to often to receive dignitaries or hold large gatherings. He established the first public school here in San Francisco, and he, I believe, gave the land. And he established the first hotel here. He was the person people turned to often to receive dignitaries or hold large gatherings. He established the first public school here in San Francisco, and he, I believe, gave the land and even helped start the public school system. He also piloted the first steamship on the bay, which was a big event for San Francisco, and it's depicted in the state seal. The ship was called the Sitka, or hold large gatherings. He established the first public school here in San Francisco, and he, I believe, gave the land and even helped start the public school system. He also piloted the first steamship on the bay, which was a big event for San Francisco, and it's depicted in the state seal. The ship was called the Sitka. There's a small, maybe a 4-block long length of street called Leidesdorff. Leidesdorff owned, I believe, much of that runs essentially from where the Transamerica building is to, I believe it ends at California. I've walked it before. It's a cute little side street at this point. It is in the center, essentially, of what was once all his property. He was the person entrusted to be the city's first treasurer. That's sort of a big deal in and of itself, just to have that legacy as part of an African American basically being the city's first banker. For Leidesdorff, he was not only the city's first treasurer, center essentially of what was once all his property. He was the person entrusted to be the city's first treasurer. That's sort of a big deal in and of itself, just to have that legacy as part of an African American basically being the city's first banker. For Leidesdorff, he was not only just a forefather of the establishment of San Francisco and California as a state, but was a leader in industries. He had a direct hand in so many things that we look at in San Francisco as part of our DNA. But you don't hear his name talked about in the context of those things. Representation really matters. We need to uplift that so people know not only him, but people like him, like me, like you, like anyone who looks like him could be like, oh, I could do that too. To have the city's first banker have a street in the middle of the financial district. I mean, that alone is powerful.
Fair use, fair use, fair use. Let's go. Let's go. I'm strange with the sound with this one, but we'll let it rock for a little bit.
A 19-year-old from the Danish island of St. Croix, where he had learned from his foster father to help manage his sugarcane plantation with great skill. He was now recommended to his dad's brother in the New World, who was having some health issues.
They say he had a sugarcane plantation? Did they just say that man had a sugarcane plantation? So family support the movement, $ his ghetto point of view. Let's go.
19-year-old from the Danish island of St. Croix, where he had learned from his foster father to help manage his sugarcane plantation with great skill. He was now recommended to his dad's brother in the New World, who was having some health issues and needed help managing his cotton plantation in Louisiana. The young, handsome bachelor was quickly introduced to New Orleans society, and before long, he was courting the most beautiful, sought-after young socialite in the city, Hortense Marjani. They fell madly in love. And after many months of courtship, Leidesdorff asked her father for his permission to marry Hortense. Hortense was ecstatic with love and joy, and they were engaged to be married in the spring of 1831. William Leidesdorff wrestled for months with the decision to tell the Marjanis of his Danish and Negroid roots. He decided that it would not be fair to the woman he loved to withhold that information from her and her family before the marriage, regardless of the consequences. He decided to have a talk with her father, who upon learning about the Leidesdorff lineage flew into a rage.
How could you not tell us that?
Leidesdorff was a Danish citizen when he came to New Orleans in 1829. William Leidesdorff's father was a wandering seaman who was born in the Danish seaport town of Altona on the Elbe River. Altona was one of the Danish monarchy's most important harbor towns until 1864, when it became a suburb of Hamburg, Germany.
So you got German brothers, German brothers. Okay.
Portuguese Jews living in the Hamburg area.
Portuguese Jews living in Hamburg, Germany. Oh, snap. Let's pause that real quick. We gonna come back to that because he about to cook. He's about to cook. Chicago journals. University of Chicago.edu, the Chicago Journals. Let's go. By article by W.S. Savage. The influence of William Alexander Leidesdorff on the history of California. The history of San Francisco in its early years was influenced by several important individuals who played significant roles in the development of the state. One of the most important was William Alexander Leidesdorff, who came to the present state of California in 1841. William Alexander Leidesdorff was born on the St. Croix Island in the West Indies, which at the time belonged to Denmark, the Dutch West Indies Company. There are other places which claim him as a native son, but this island seems most likely. He was the son of a Dane and a mulatto woman. And if you guys haven't, check out my review of the Native American documentary, which was narrated by James Earl Jones, and it's very clearly stated in there that mulatto was just a term given to people of ambiguous skin tone, whether or not they had mixed blood. So she could just be full Indian and they'd call her a mulatto, or she could be English, she could have European and Indian blood and they call her a mulatto. Like, so it's not a clear classification, and had an amount of Negro blood in his veins. His latest biographer, James Manning, after searching all the papers and records available, to the conclusion, like all those who have studied the life of Leidesdorff, that he had considerable Negro blood, a fact which is revealed by his portrait. The marriage was not legal this marriage was not a legal one in the recognized sense, but an illegitimate relation. The child was born out of wedlock, but the laws of Denmark allowed the father to legalize his son. This action is brought out by the court records of the St. Croix Island. This particular document is dated July 18th, 1837, and put this illegitimate son in line to inherit his father's property. The Danish law was flexible on this point, and his father took advantage of it. So y'all saying, oh, some white man gave him this land? Y'all stupid. Y'all sound retarded. Sure, let's go with that. The racist white man gave this man all of his land. Let's go with that. His education was secured in the St. Croix Island, but we have no way of knowing the extent of his education. Whether he was a college graduate or not remains uncertain. Pretty sure he was, because again, this man ended up becoming the attorney and vice consul for Mexico and U.S. as they were bridging their ties, you know, before, during, and after the Mexican-American Wars. So that's University of Chicago Journals.edu. I'm gonna let this man keep cooking for a second.
Were prohibited from burying Leidesdorff was a Danish citizen when he came to New Orleans in 1829. William Leidesdorff's father was a wandering seaman who was born in the Danish seaport town of Altona on the Elbe River. Altona was one of the Danish monarchy's most important harbor towns until 1864, when it became a suburb of Hamburg, Germany. Portuguese Jews living in the Hamburg area were prohibited from burying their dead in the city. So they bought land for a cemetery in Altona in 1611, and eventually Jewish families started moving into the area. Leidesdorff Sr. lived in New Orleans during his youth in the early 1800s, and it is the city where he met his wife, Anna Maria Spark, who was a mulatto Cuban with some Haitian blood, living among the large population of free persons of color in the city. Alex and Anna's romance blossomed in New Orleans. During the time when French gentlemen settled their differences under the magnificent grand oaks, with pistols for two and champagne for one. Leidesdorff and Spark moved sometime before 1810 to the Danish West Indies island of St. Croix, where William was born. The father sent William and his siblings to Copenhagen, Denmark for several years of schooling. Leidesdorff Sr. became the foreman for a sugarcane plantation on the island that was owned by an Englishman. The Englishman took the quick-learning young Leidesdorff under his wing and taught him the business, and eventually recommended him to his brother in New Orleans. William was only 19 years old when he arrived in New Orleans. How could you not tell us that? Hortense's father called off the marriage.
Le diable surgit devant eux.
Hortense's prominent family claimed membership in New Orleans high society with a lineage dating back to King Louis XIV of France. Instead of the wedding being the social event of the year, it became the New Orleans social crash of the decade. Leidesdorff was crestfallen. Hortense's heart was broken beyond repair, and she died within weeks. The Marjorie family priest visited Leidesdorff shortly after the funeral and placed in his hand a small golden cross that he promised Hortense he would deliver to him, along with the words,
"Tell him I loved him until death."
Wow. Shout out to them for that amazing article. We're going to check this out real quick before we get out of there. The first steam vessel to navigate San Francisco Bay by John Haskell Kemble, the California Historical Society Quarterly, Volume 14, Number 2, June 1935, pages 143 to 146, published by the University California Press. Again, the California Historical Society Quarterly. This is just a preview of it. So this is all we need. Y'all gonna get this work, man. So, first steam vessel to navigate San Francisco Bay on October 19th, 1847, the bark Naslednich, belonging to Russian American company, put into San Francisco 15 days out of Sitka. In reporting her arrival, the Californian remarked that we are informed that a steamboat of about a small pony power, as Boz would say, is securely packed up on board. The boat appears to have been constructed at Sitka for the use of the governor of the Russian American company. Another thing people don't like to deal with is the fact that Russia had land in America, the Russian American company. But in 1847, she was sold to William Alexander Leidesdorff, a prominent merchant of San Francisco. Her new owner planned to use the steamer in his hide and tallow commerce on the shallow streams and sloughs leading into San Francisco Bay. In reality, she was a steam launch, being only 37 feet long with a 9-foot beam, a depth of 3.5 feet, and a draft of 18 inches. The vessel was said to be well built, with her underwater body copper fastened. Her side wheels were driven by a locomotive engine, and despite her rather discouraging experience on San Francisco Bay and the Sacramento River, it was estimated that with a competent engineer and a full head of steam, she could make 8 miles an hour. As an alternative to her engine, a passenger on her trip to Sacramento said that she could have rowed with 4 oars. The inventory of articles belonging to the steamer mentions I sail, but there is no evidence as to how it's rigged. The same manuscript speaks of a cannon, which was used for signaling purposes. Sure it was. With its rammer and sponge, a candlestick and 2 lanterns, 3 Cushings for cabin, 1 copper tea kettle, and a Russian flag. The steamboat's cabin, which was described as being about the size of an ordinary omnibus, accommodated 9 persons who sat on benches on either side, but so close together that their knees touched. The boat was very crank, and the arrangement of passengers in such positions as to keep her on an even keel was a delicate matter. On her trial trip on San Francisco Bay, William D.M. Howard, who was described as a man of aldermanic proportions, so he's an older man, was required to occupy the post of honor immediately over the boiler in order to keep the steamer in trim when she went up San Francisco. So to keep the boat from rocking and rolling and moving and grooving. Mrs. Gregson's baby is said to have been handed about in the cabin as ballast. Oh man, it's funny. These vessel was commanded by J. Howard Ackerman, at least at the time of her trip to Sonoma, while the crew consisted of a Russian who pretended to be an engineer, quote unquote. There's no source for that though, and a man who acted as a cook, deckhand, and fireman. So you had a whole crew there. On the trip to New Helvetia, the Indian pilot from Sutter's launch, Sacramento, was borrowed. So gang, we're gonna leave it right there for the part one. Why you guys stay lying to these kids? Huh? Why do y'all stay lying to these kids? Huh? Don't tell me, tell him. As always, gang. Any questions, comments, critiques, criticisms, you know where to reach me. You know where to reach me. If you're interested in this, I will do a part 2 of this great man and his journey, because he has a lot of amazing things that he helped the state of California do. We didn't even get to the public schools or anything yet, land allotments. This man loaned money to what became San Francisco and California. This dude was an amazing, amazing, amazing man. This brother from another mother did all of those amazing things. Gang, we gonna get out of here. It's your boy Ghetto. Thank y'all so much for rocking and vibing. Y'all could have been anywhere else in the world, but y'all here with me. Support the movement, support the movement, support the movement. $ his ghetto point of view. $ his ghetto point of view. $ his ghetto point of view. Take a quick break.
Have y'all ran into you, Smokey? I'm trying to clean up this neighborhood, and I thought you could help me by pointing out some of the drug addicts.
Okay, but nowadays, drug addicts have some pretty peculiar names.
You mean nicknames?
Well, street names, like who's on crack, say what's on smack, and I don't know, freebases.
Well, do you know the fellows' names?
I said, who's on crack, say what's on smack, and I don't know, freebases.
Well, who's on crack?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name.
Who?
The guy on crack.
Who?
The crack addict.
Who is on crack?
I don't know.
I don't know, freebases.
Who freebases?
No, who's on crack?
Say what?
No, he's on smack.
Who's on smack?
No, who's on crack?
I don't know.
Freebase!
Shut up, you damn stupid crackhead!
We gonna get out of here. Much love to y'all, gang. See y'all soon, and we out.
All the people with the backwards attitude, pointing fingers, and that's a bad excuse for sitting on your ass when you complain. It's two things that you don't want to change. You ain't got no time for me, and I ain't got no sympathy for you.
Thank you for coming. I'll see you in hell.